Welcome to this multimedia video on making a lesson with traditional learning strategies versus student-centered learning strategies. The sample topic to illustrate examples of both types of lessons will be how to prepare for a hurricane. First, a hurricane preparedness lesson will be described using traditional or teacher-centered learning strategies, which is an example of what not to do. Second, a hurricane preparation lesson will be illustrated using student-centered learning strategies, which has been designed using well-researched evidence on how students learn. This presentation was prepared for workplace trainers in Corpus Christi, Texas, but the information is relevant toward all trainers located in the Texas coastal bend since hurricanes threaten this entire coastline on an annual basis. Perhaps we have all sat through a company training on hurricane preparation where we are given physical hurricane pamphlets or guides and the training agenda as we enter the barren lecture-style classroom. You sit in rows next to your colleagues, face forward, and look at the trainer who stands in front of the classroom poised to click through an endless PowerPoint. To your dismay, the instructor drones on and on about what to do before a hurricane as you yawn and look at the clock in the classroom and wonder why you skipped breakfast that day. Then you hear, "All right class, let's break for 10 minutes. Be prepared to take a quiz on how a hurricane forms when you come back." You stare blankly at your notepad full of ominous hurricane doodles and realize that you weren't even paying attention to the past hour of the training. You mentally kick yourself for not being a studious learner and nervously accept that in a few minutes you'll be guessing the answers to the questions that you were not prepared for. Perhaps this is a worst-case scenario for a hurricane preparedness training session, but the traditional strategies included are far too often used in many trainings. Not only are these traditional learning strategies ineffective, but it leaves the learner anxiously wondering what they did wrong. This is a downward spiral that is due to poor lesson design and not necessarily poor study habits in students. So why are traditional learning strategies generally fruitless? There are many reasons. Lecture-style classrooms are designed so that students face forward toward the dispensers of information, which are teachers and visual aids like a PowerPoint. The flow of information is mostly one way with little to no student interaction. A hurricane pamphlet is like a textbook, which is another traditional learning method for information dissemination. Again, the communication is one way. Notepads are traditional ways to record information given to learners, which supports direct instruction. The rigid hurricane training agenda is another reminder for students that they don't have a choice in how they will learn the hurricane preparation material. The main reason why these traditional learning methods don't work is because they are part of the banking education concept in which students have little say over what, where, and how they learn, and are unable to actively engage in the learning material with their peers. So how do we design a hurricane preparedness training that will engage our trainees and lead to a successful learning transfer on the job or at home? The second scenario will illustrate a way to use student-centered learning strategies in a training on hurricane preparation. You are given an email invitation to participate in the annual hurricane preparedness training. Before the training, you notice that hurricane pamphlets are being handed out and posted on bulletin boards which pique your interest. The facilitator comes around to your desk and asks you to fill out a hurricane action plan and to bring it with you to the training. When you arrive at the training, hot breakfast tacos and caffeinated drinks are offered. The facilitator welcomes the class to this important training and asks everyone if it's okay to live video record this training with a web camera to be used by those who are unable to attend or have to complete this training at a later time. They say that the first half of the day will include expert speakers on various aspects of hurricane preparedness, and the second half will include interactive workshop stations that will practice what has been learned. The facilitator asks each trainee, even those who are viewing from home or long distance, to use their smart device or pair up with a coworker who has one and log into the GoToWebinar web forum for this training. You have a smart tablet that you and your cubicle mate share. You notice that this web forum includes detailed and easy to navigate information on hurricane preparation topics to use at your leisure during the training. There is a discussion forum with pre-selected topics and an area to add in your own discussion threads. During the training, you notice that there is a live feed with questions and comments from your coworkers. Sometimes the facilitator or expert speaker will notice these and respond to them live. The facilitator organizes short bursts of instruction at a time, changes topics frequently, and allows for multiple breaks to keep you and your colleagues interested and refreshed. The workshop stations in the second half of the day include many interactive activities. Each completed activity has a work-related incentive attached to it, like time off from work or a small monetary bonus. The facilitator calls upon volunteers to put together a hurricane supply bin with canned food, medicine, first aid supplies, and clothing. The facilitator's aides are on hand to help colleagues fill out their hurricane action plan with emergency contact information and checklists on what to do in certain events before, during, and after a hurricane. There is a computer simulation that asks you what to do in the event that your home is flooded upon returning after a hurricane, for instance. There is even a station that includes a collaborative interactive quiz to help you and your colleagues remember the information you learned so that you can be ready. At the end of the training, the facilitator asks you to sign up for your local emergency management alert system like reversealert.org and your company's emergency response system so that you can remain up to date and reminded of the emergency procedures as they occur. The facilitator provides a follow-up training in 30 days that you are asked to attend to practice for a mock hurricane. The training recording and its online interactive components are available for your consumption after the training if you are interested in looking further into issues that you didn't have time to explore during the training. This second training is more student-centered. It is progressive and gives control to the learner. It allows for inquiry learning with problems to solve and students can ask questions. There are interactive and online readings and information available. The whole training is cooperative as learners are invited to collaborate with peers during instruction, on discussion forums, and even on informal assessments. The second training is technology integrated and is an example of a flipped classroom that allows for online and distance learning for those who are unable to attend. It is flexible to the needs of today's learners, and it also extends learning even after the training session to transfer learning on the job or at home. Would you choose to include strategies from the traditional learning scenario or the student-centered learning scenario? Based on research performed by Stolovich and Keeps 2011 in their book Telling Ain't Training, students learn better when learner-centered strategies are included in trainings. So the second scenario is a better design that should lead to successful transfer of learning on the job or at home if implemented properly. In your next training, perhaps you may want to consider incorporating more learner-centered strategies as illustrated to increase learner success. Thank you for watching. See you next time.